The jungle was silent, yet Daniel could feel something watching him. He moved slowly, his boots pressing into soft alien soil, the sound of insects echoing in the distance. For weeks he had been exploring this forgotten planet, searching for nothing more than old ruins and lost technology. But this place felt different. The air was heavy, the trees twisted in strange shapes as if they had grown to guard something sacred. Daniel pushed through thick vines until he reached a clearing. In the center stood a stone structure covered with alien markings. Glowing faintly under the moonlight, he stopped, breath caught in his throat. It was no ordinary ruin, this looked alive. The carvings shifted slowly like light crawling across the surface. As he stepped closer, a chill ran down his spine. Something inside him whispered, "Do not touch it," but another voice, stronger, urged him forward. The relic stood on a pedestal inside the ruin, a crystal sphere encased in black metal. Pulsing with light, Daniel raised his hand. Almost against his will, the moment his skin brushed the surface, the world exploded in light. A surge of energy rushed through his veins. Lifting him off the ground, he gasped, eyes wide, as visions filled his mind. Alien armies clashing in wars, a great throne standing empty, and shadows bowing before a figure he could not see clearly. His chest burned as the relic's glow sank into his skin, carving faint patterns across his arm like fire tattoos. When his feet touched the ground again, everything was silent, but he was not alone. Shapes moved in the dark, tall figures with glowing eyes, their skin pale blue, their armor decorated with strange symbols. Alien warriors surrounded the ruin, whispering in a language Daniel could not understand, yet their voices trembled as if they had witnessed something impossible. One of them stepped forward, her face sharp and proud, her silver eyes fixed on him. She spoke slowly, in broken human tongue, "The relic, it has chosen you." Her words made the others gasp. Some dropped to their knees, others shouted in protest. Daniel's heart raced, confusion filling him. "Chosen? I don't even know what this is." The woman narrowed her eyes. "You should not touch what is sacred, human. The relic chooses only one in 1,000 years. And never a stranger, never a human." Her voice shook, but there was anger beneath it. The relic pulsed again, sending a soft wave of light that silenced the crowd. Every alien eye turned toward Daniel as if the answer to their prophecy stood before them. He took a step back, hands raised. "Look, I didn't mean to. I was just exploring." But the patterns glowing on his arm betrayed him, marking him as something more. The warriors whispered louder, their voices mixing fear and awe. Some bowed deeper, others clenched their weapons. Unwilling to accept what they saw, the proud woman stepped closer, her silver eyes never leaving him. "You carry what no human should. The relic has bound itself to you. Now you cannot escape." Daniel swallowed hard, his mind spinning. Why him? Why now? He had come here alone with no mission except discovery. Yet the universe had placed a burden on his shoulders. Suddenly the relic's light flared again. Burning brighter than before, the ground trembled, dust falling from the ancient stones from deep inside the ruin. A low hum echoed like the voice of something waking after centuries. The aliens dropped to one knee, fear written across their faces. The woman whispered, "The prophecy. It begins." Daniel's chest tightened, his heart pounding like a drum. He wanted to run, to escape the eyes fixed on him. But something inside whispered again, "Not this time, you cannot turn away." The relic burned softly against his skin, like it was alive, watching him, choosing him. The silence broke when another alien shouted, "He is not the one! Destroy him before it is too late." Weapons were raised, sharp blades glowing with energy. Daniel froze, fear gripping his chest, but before they could strike, the woman lifted her hand, stopping them. Her voice carried command. "No, the relic has spoken, and if we defy it, we bring doom upon ourselves." The soldiers hesitated, lowering their weapons slowly, though their eyes still burned with suspicion. Daniel stood in the middle, sweat dripping from his brow. Every instinct told him he was trapped, that he had stepped into something far greater than himself. The relic pulsed one last time, and in his mind he heard a voice, calm, deep, unearthly. "You are the bearer." Daniel's knees weakened, but he clenched his fists. He had no idea what this journey meant or what fate awaited him. But one thing was clear. The relic had chosen, and the universe would never be the same. The night sky above the ruins shimmered with strange lights, as if the stars themselves had been disturbed by the awakening of the relic. Daniel stood still, surrounded by warriors who watched him with a mix of fear, anger and awe. The markings on his arm still glowed faintly, like fire buried beneath skin, refusing to fade. He felt like a prisoner. Even though no chains held him, the tall woman with silver eyes stepped closer, her movements slow and measured. She was different from the others, not just in rank but in presence. Her voice cut through the tense silence. "You are not from this world, yet the relic has chosen you." "There is only one explanation, the prophecy." Daniel frowned, his throat dry. "Prophecy? What prophecy?" He expected no answer, but her gaze locked onto him, unblinking. "The words were carved long before my birth," she said. "They tell of a great bearer, chosen not by blood, not by clan, but by the will of the relic itself, one who would unite the broken tribes when war draws near." Her voice trembled at the end, as if speaking it aloud carried a weight she feared. Murmurs rose from the crowd of aliens. Their armor glinting in the pale light, some whispered, "It cannot be true, not him," while others muttered prayers under their breath. Daniel's head spun. He had stumbled into legends he did not understand, yet everyone around him treated him as the center of it. He raised his hands, trying to calm them. "Listen, I'm just an explorer. I don't know anything about uniting tribes or fighting wars. I don't belong here." But the relic pulsed again on his arm. Silencing his denial, the glow intensified, and a faint whisper echoed inside his head. The same deep voice from before, "Bearer, the path is before you." Daniel stumbled back, clutching his arm, his breathing quick and shallow. The aliens looked at him as if he had confirmed everything they feared. The silver-eyed woman studied him carefully, her jaw tight. At last she said, "You may not believe it, but belief is no longer needed. The relic has marked you, it cannot be undone. You are bound to it until death." Her words struck Daniel like a hammer. Bound? Until death? He wanted to laugh, to shout that it was impossible, but the heat under his skin reminded him it was real. The crowd began to divide, some falling to their knees in reverence, others shouting that it was a mistake. One warrior, his face twisted with rage, pushed forward, pointing his weapon at Daniel. "This is blasphemy," he roared. "The prophecy cannot mean him. A human, an outsider. If we allow this, our people will fall." Daniel stepped back instinctively, heart pounding, but before the man could strike, the woman's voice rang out again, sharp as steel. "Enough! The relic does not make errors." The warrior froze, trembling with fury, but he did not dare disobey her. It was clear she held authority here. Though not without challenge, Daniel finally spoke. Voice low but steady, "Why me? You have your own people, your own leaders. Why would this thing choose a stranger?" The woman's eyes softened just for a moment, a shadow crossing her face. "Prophecies are cruel, human. They never choose who we want, only who is needed." Her words lingered in the air, heavy and unshakable before Daniel could respond. The ruin behind him trembled again, stone cracking as more light seeped through the carvings. The aliens gasped, some backing away in fear. From deep inside the ruin, a low rumble echoed like thunder, and for an instant Daniel saw another vision. A battlefield covered in fire, alien warriors standing beside him, and in the distance a shadowed figure with eyes of fire, waiting, watching. The vision vanished as quickly as it came. Leaving his heart racing, he looked at the woman, desperation in his voice. "I don't want this." Her silver eyes hardened once more. "Neither did those before you, but destiny does not ask permission." The warriors began moving, forming a circle around Daniel, not with weapons raised, but as if preparing to escort him. He stiffened, his instincts screaming at him to resist, yet the relic pulsed again, calming him with unnatural warmth. The woman gestured to the path beyond the ruin, where a trail of glowing stones stretched into the jungle. "Come, you must face the council. They will decide what role you will play in the war to come." "War?" Daniel whispered, dread sinking into him. She gave a single nod, her voice grave. "It has already begun in shadows. The tribes fracture, enemies grow stronger. And now, with you, everything will change." As they began to walk, the alien crowd parted, their eyes fixed on Daniel like he was both savior and curse. The jungle seemed darker now, the air heavier. Each step he took felt like chains locking around his fate, and yet deep within, the relic's hum grew stronger, as if pleased, as if guiding him towards something greater than fear. The woman walked beside him, silent, her expression unreadable, but Daniel could feel her eyes on him, watching closely. Not trust, not yet, but something else, something caught between doubt and curiosity. The relic had chosen, and though Daniel did not yet know it, their fates were already bound together. The path to the council was long and heavy with silence. Daniel walked at the center, alien warriors flanking him like guards, their glowing armor casting faint light on the dark jungle. Every step felt like walking deeper into a trap, yet the relic's warmth pulsed against his arm, guiding him forward as if it wanted him there. He clenched his fists, wishing he could rip the thing off his skin, but the marks burned whenever he thought of resisting. The silver-eyed woman walked beside him, quiet and unreadable. Her name he soon learned from the whispers of her soldiers. Liara, priestess and warrior both. The others respected her, feared her, and some even looked at her with devotion. But her gaze on Daniel was different, sharp, measuring, never soft. He could tell she did not trust him, yet for some reason she had stopped her people from killing him. At last the jungle opened to a wide valley lit by alien fire crystals. In the center rose a great stone circle carved with symbols older than memory. Dozens of alien elders waited there, their robes woven with silver threads, their eyes glowing faintly with age and power. The council. Daniel's chest tightened. The sight alone told him he was stepping into judgment. As they entered the circle, the crowd fell silent, all eyes fixed on him. Liara stepped forward, speaking firmly. Honored elders, the relic has awakened, and it has chosen him. She gestured at Daniel, her voice steady though her expression betrayed unease. A ripple of shock moved through the council, whispers breaking into heated arguments. One elder rose, his voice deep. Impossible. The relic cannot bind to a human, it is forbidden. Another elder shook her head. Not forbidden, unheard of, yet the proof burns on his skin. We cannot deny what is before us. Daniel looked at his arm, the glowing patterns crawling faintly like living fire, and swallowed hard. Finally, the eldest among them stood, leaning on a staff carved from crystal. His eyes glowed brighter than the others, his voice calm but commanding. The relic does not choose lightly. If it has bound itself to this human, then he must face the trials. The circle grew quiet, all murmurs silenced. Daniel frowned. Trials? What trials? The elder's gaze fell heavy upon him. The bearer must prove his worth, through strength, through wisdom, and through heart. Only then can he be accepted. Fail, and the relic will consume you. The words sent a shiver down Daniel's spine. Consume him. The thought made his stomach twist, but he could see no escape in their eyes. The relic pulsed warmly, almost in agreement with the elder. As if daring him to try, Liara stepped closer, her silver eyes meeting his. If you refuse, they will kill you. If you accept, you may survive. Her tone was not cruel, just honest. Daniel exhaled slowly, his voice low. Looks like I don't have much of a choice. The elder raised his staff, striking it against the stone floor. Then let the first trial begin. Strength of body against the guardians. From the shadows, two massive alien beasts were brought forth, their bodies armored with natural scales, their eyes glowing with hunger. Chains strained as the creatures roared, shaking the ground beneath their claws. Daniel's blood froze. He had no weapons, no armor, just himself. But before he could protest, the beasts were released, charging forward with terrifying speed. The crowd erupted with shouts, some cheering, some whispering that the human would die quickly. Daniel's instincts screamed at him to run, but there was nowhere to go. The first beast lunged, jaws wide, and Daniel dove aside, rolling across the stone, his body aching. The second beast swung its claw, striking the ground where he had stood moments before. The force cracked the stone, dust spraying into the air. Daniel scrambled to his feet, his mind racing. He was no warrior, but he had survived countless dangers before, through creativity, not brute force. He grabbed a loose shard of stone and hurled it at one beast's eye. The creature roared in pain, staggering back. The other lunged again, but Daniel ducked beneath its swipe, forcing it to crash into its injured partner. The crowd gasped. Even Liara's eyes widened slightly. Daniel didn't fight like them, but he used speed, distraction, and instinct. As the beasts turned on him again, the relic burned against his arm, filling him with sudden strength. He clenched his fist, and when the creature charged, he struck its jaw with all his force. The blow cracked like thunder, sending the beast reeling backward. Silence fell. The second beast hesitated, its eyes flickering with confusion. Daniel stepped forward, chest heaving, but instead of finishing it, he shouted, "Go! Leave me!" The relic pulsed, releasing a wave of light, and the beast stopped, lowered its head, and slowly retreated. The first beast followed, limping into the shadows, their roars fading into the jungle. The crowd erupted in disbelief, some shouting, some cheering. The elder raised his staff, his voice booming. "The first trial is complete. The bearer has shown strength." Daniel dropped to his knees, sweat pouring down his face, every muscle aching. Liara approached, her expression unreadable. "You fight strangely, human, not with honor, but with cunning." Daniel looked up at her, exhausted. "I fight to live, that's all." For the first time, a faint spark touched her lips. Not a smile, but not scorn either. The second trial awaited, yet something had changed. The alien warriors no longer looked at him only with hate. Some now watched with a glimmer of respect. The relic pulsed softly, as if satisfied. But in Daniel's heart, the question burned stronger than ever. What awaited him in the trials to come, and why had fate dragged him here at all? The arena was still echoing with the roars of the beasts when Daniel was led away. His body ached from bruises, his mind spun from fear and confusion. Yet the relic on his arm glowed steady, as if proud. The alien warriors who once doubted him now stared with mixed emotions. Half respect, half suspicion. But Daniel knew the trials were not over. Liara walked beside him. Her silver eyes sharp, she spoke quietly. "Do not think one victory earns you trust. The relic demands more. The next trial will be harder." Daniel gave a bitter laugh. "Harder than fighting giant lizards with no weapons?" "Great, can't wait." Liara did not smile, her face unreadable, though something in her gaze lingered longer than before. They reached the stone circle again, where the council waited. The eldest elder raised his crystal staff, his glowing eyes fixed on Daniel. "You have shown strength, human. Now comes the trial of the soul. The binding of the relic cannot remain incomplete." Daniel frowned, his heart tightening. "Binding? What does that mean?" The elder's voice deepened, carrying weight. "The bearer must be joined to a counterpart. The bride of the relic, only then can balance be achieved. Without her, the relic will consume you." Body and mind, the word struck Daniel like a blade. A bride? He hadn't asked for this, he hadn't even wanted the relic. His voice shook with anger. "I didn't choose this. Why should I be forced into something I don't want?" The elder's eyes narrowed. "The relic chooses, not you. It demands harmony. The bearer and the bride together become the vessel of destiny. Deny it and both will perish," the alien crowd murmured, voices rising with excitement and fear. Daniel's chest burned as the relic pulsed stronger, filling the air with light. Its glow spread into the circle, searching, reaching, until it struck upon one figure, Liara. The light wrapped around her like silver threads, binding her form in a halo of brilliance. The crowd gasped, some dropping to their knees, others crying out in shock. Daniel froze, staring at her in disbelief. "No, it can't be." Liara's face hardened, though her eyes widened for the briefest moment. The elder lifted his staff, his voice trembling for the first time. "The relic has spoken, she is the bride." Silence fell, broken only by the low hum of the relic. Liara's jaw tightened, her voice sharp. "I do not accept this." Her defiance rippled through the crowd. Many gasped, some cheered her bravery. Daniel spoke quickly. "Wait, if she doesn't want this." "You can't force her." The elder shook his head. "It is not choice, it is fate. The relic binds what must be bound." Liara's fists clenched, her pride burning through her words. "I am no one's bride, least of all a human stranger." Daniel felt anger rise within him, not at her, but at the chains of destiny around them both. He turned toward the council. "You can't control people like this. Maybe your relic doesn't understand freedom." The elder's glowing eyes flared. "You speak boldly for one chosen, but the relic knows balance. Without the bride, you will lose yourself. Your mind will shatter, your body will burn. As if to prove it, The relic seared against Daniel's arm, pain exploding through his veins. He dropped to one knee, gasping, the fire crawling across his skin. Liara's eyes widened, her anger mixing with alarm. The relic's glow spread toward her, and she felt it too. Heat, pressure, the sense of something pulling at her very soul. She staggered, clutching her chest, her breath sharp. The connection between them grew stronger, invisible but undeniable. Daniel felt her presence in his mind for a heartbeat, not words but emotions. Defiance, fear, and beneath it something softer she tried to hide. He gasped, forcing the bond back. The pain easing only slightly, the crowd shouted louder, some demanding the bond be sealed, others calling it an omen. The elder raised his staff once more, his voice booming. The relic has chosen. To deny it is to deny survival. If the bearer falls, we all fall. For war approaches. Daniel pushed himself to his feet, sweat dripping down his face. He looked at Liara, his voice firm despite the pain. I won't force you if you don't want this. Then I'd rather burn than make you a prisoner of fate. The words stunned the crowd into silence. Even Liara froze, her silver eyes wide. For a long moment she said nothing. Then slowly she stepped closer, her expression unreadable. Her voice was cold, yet softer than before. You are a fool human, but a strange one. No bearer has ever refused power, and yet, you would. Daniel met her gaze, his chest burning. Because I know what it means to lose freedom. And I won't take yours. The relic pulsed brighter between them, its hum rising like a heartbeat. The council watched in awe as the light bound them together, not through force but through a fragile thread of choice. Liara closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. If the relic demands it, I will not bow. But I will walk beside you, not as prisoner, but as equal. The bond tightened, glowing brighter, sealing not as destiny demanded, but as agreement formed. The elder lowered his staff, his voice filled with wonder. The bride has accepted. The bond is made. Daniel felt the warmth ease into his arm, the pain vanishing, replaced by steady strength. He looked at Liara not as an enemy, not yet as a partner, but as someone caught in the same chains. Their fates were bound, their journey only beginning. And in the shadows of the valley, unseen eyes watched with hunger. Enemies who would not allow this union to live unchallenged. The night after the binding was restless. Daniel sat outside the stone circle, staring at the glowing marks on his arm. The relic's warmth no longer burned with pain, but it hummed softly like a second heartbeat inside him. He felt stronger, steadier, yet also heavier, as if a weight of destiny pressed on his chest. Liara stood nearby, silent as always, her silver eyes watching the horizon. She had said little since the binding, only that she would not break the vow once made. But Daniel could see the conflict in her, the pride of a warrior fighting against the role destiny had forced upon her. He wanted to speak, to ease the tension, but the words never came before the silence could break. A horn echoed across the valley, deep and sharp. The alien warriors snapped to attention, their armor glowing brighter. Liara's hand went to her weapon instantly, her voice low and grim. They are here. Daniel rose, heart pounding. Who's here? Her gaze narrowed, scanning the dark jungle beyond the valley. The warlord clans, the ones who covet the relic. They would not allow this binding to pass without challenge. As if on cue, the trees shook and shapes emerged. An army of alien warriors clad in blackened armor, their banners marked with red flame symbols. Their leader stood at the front, a towering figure with jagged horns curling from his head, his eyes burning like fire in the shadows. The council gathered quickly, their faces pale. One elder whispered, "It begins too soon, the war has come." Another muttered, "The relic's bearer must prove himself, or we are lost." Daniel's stomach twisted. He had only just survived the trials. Now he faced an army, he whispered to himself. I'm not ready for this, but the relic pulsed on his arm, firm and steady as if answering, "You are never ready, until you must be." The enemy warlord raised his weapon, a massive blade glowing with red energy. His voice thundered across the valley. "The relic belongs to the strong. Give us the human and the priestess, and we will spare the rest." The crowd stirred in fear, many warriors glancing at Daniel with doubt. Liara stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You will not have him nor the relic. He has been chosen, and together we will stand." Her words rang with conviction, silencing the whispers for the first time. Daniel felt a flicker of strength in her presence, not just duty, but resolve. He stepped beside her, fists clenched. "If you want me, You'll have to go through us both. The relic flared brightly. Casting light across the battlefield, the enemy warlord growled, "So be it. Then we take it by blood." The valley erupted in chaos. Alien warriors clashed, blades sparking, energy blasts lighting the night, the air filled with the cries of battle, the ground shaking beneath the force of war. Daniel stumbled at first, unarmed and untrained, but the relic guided his movements. When an enemy struck, his arm rose faster than thought, blocking with a shield of glowing light. When he struck back, his blows landed heavier than his strength should allow. Liara fought beside him, her blade dancing in silver arcs. She moved with deadly grace, cutting down enemies who tried to reach him. For a moment, Daniel felt almost safe, the bond between them pulling their movements into rhythm. But the enemy was endless, wave after wave crashing upon them. Daniel gasped, his body straining. There are too many. Liara gritted her teeth. Parrying a strike? The relic must answer, call it. Make it obey you. He shook his head, fear tightening his chest. I don't know how. Her eyes met his, fierce and demanding. Then learn.
Or we both die, the relic pulsed violently.
Sensing the desperation, Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Letting the warmth spread, visions flooded his mind, ancient bearers standing in battle, unleashing waves of energy, their brides beside them lending balance. The whispering voice returned, calm and commanding, not alone together. Daniel opened his eyes, his arm glowing brighter than ever. He reached for Liara's hand, surprising her in the heat of battle. Trust me, he said. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, but then her fingers tightened around his. The relic flared, light exploding outward. A shockwave rippled across the battlefield, sending enemy warriors tumbling to the ground. The ground cracked with glowing lines, a protective circle forming around Daniel and Liara. Together they stood at the center, the bond between them blazing like fire. The enemy warlord staggered but did not fall. His burning eyes narrowed, rage twisting his face. So, the relic has awakened its true power, but you are still weak, human. You cannot hold it for long. He raised his massive blade and charged, his army rallying behind him. Daniel's knees buckled under the strain. The relic's power nearly overwhelming him, but Liara's presence steadied him. Her voice fierce, Stand, bearer, you are not alone. Not anymore. He clenched his teeth, forcing himself upright, the glow stabilizing with her strength beside him. The first clash of their true battle was about to begin. The relic had chosen, the bride had accepted, and now the war for the future of their world was at hand. The valley shook beneath the pounding footsteps of the enemy army. Daniel's breath came sharp and heavy, his arm blazing with relic fire. Beside him, Liara gripped her silver blade, her eyes locked on the towering warlord leading the charge. The bond between them pulsed with heat and light, binding their strength into one. The relic whispered in Daniel's mind again, deep and commanding, together or fall. He clenched his teeth, nodding toward Liara. We do this side by side. She glanced at him, her expression still fierce but softer than before. Do not fail me, human. The first wave of enemy warriors stormed the circle, their weapons glowing red with energy. Daniel raised his arm instinctively, and a wall of light burst forth. Blades struck the barrier but shattered on impact, sparks scattering across the stone. Liara leapt forward through the opening, cutting down two enemies in swift strikes. Her movements fast as lightning, Daniel followed, throwing a punch that carried far more force than his body should allow, the relic amplifying his every move. But the enemy was endless. For every soldier they cut down, 3 more appeared. Daniel's body ached with strain, each pulse of the relic draining his strength. Sweat poured down his face. His lungs burned. Too many, he gasped. Parrying a strike, Liara growled, slashing through another foe. Then we cut through until there are none left. Stop talking and fight. The enemy warlord finally reached the circle, towering above them all. His massive blade glowed with molten red light, his voice a roar of thunder. You dare defy me, human? You think you can carry what belongs to warriors? The relic is mine. Daniel stood his ground, though his knees shook. The relic flaring on his arm. It chose me, and I won't let you take it. The warlord swung his blade with crushing force. Daniel raised his glowing arm just in time, the relic's light colliding with the molten energy. The clash shook the ground, shockwaves blasting through the valley, knocking warriors from both sides off their feet. Liara darted in, her silver blade slicing across the warlord's armor. sparks flying, but the giant only snarled, swatting her aside with brutal strength. Daniel shouted her name. Running to her side, she pushed herself up, blood trickling from her lip. Her voice steady despite the pain. "Do not. Stop, finish it." The relic pulsed harder, feeding Daniel's rage and fear into raw power. But deep inside he felt the danger. It wanted more. It wanted to consume him completely. The whispering voice grew louder. "Give yourself and I will give victory." Daniel gritted his teeth, shaking his head. No, not like this, he remembered Liara's words. Her fierce silver eyes, her promise to stand as equal. He would not let the relic turn him into a monster. The warlord lunged again, blade raised high. Daniel grabbed Liara's hand without thinking, the bond between them blazing brighter than ever. The relic's light erupted, surrounding them both in a sphere of energy. The warlord's strike hit, but the force was absorbed, rippling harmlessly across the glowing shield. Together, Daniel and Liara pushed forward, their steps matching, their wills aligned. The relic's power surged, not as hunger, but as harmony. Their shield expanded, blasting enemies away like leaves in a storm. Liara shouted, her voice fierce, "Strike now!" Daniel raised his arm, the relic channeling through his body like fire. A beam of pure light shot forward. Slamming into the warlord's chest, the giant roared in agony, stumbling back as cracks spread across his armor. Liara leapt in, her blade cutting deep into the opening. Sparks and blood flying, the warlord staggered, his fiery eyes dimming, but he still swung his massive weapon with desperate strength. Daniel caught the blade with both hands, the relic burning through his veins. His muscles screamed, but he held firm, refusing to give way. Liara darted beneath, driving her blade upward into the warlord's heart. The giant froze, eyes wide, his roar breaking into silence. He collapsed with a crash that shook the valley, the ground trembling beneath his fall. The enemy army faltered, their leader slain, fear spreading through their ranks. Some fled into the jungle. Others dropped their weapons and surrendered. Daniel fell to his knees, gasping for air, the relic's glow dimming back into steady warmth. Liara stood beside him, chest heaving, her blade dripping with enemy blood. For a long moment, neither spoke, the silence broken only by the distant sounds of retreat. At last, Liara looked down at him, her voice quieter than he had ever heard. "You fought well, human. Not with greed, not with pride, but with something else." Daniel managed a weak laugh. "I fought because I didn't want to see you fall. I fought because someone had to stand." The bond pulsed between them. Not heavy chains, but a steady thread of trust beginning to grow. The council emerged from their shelter, their faces filled with awe and relief. The eldest elder raised his staff, his voice carrying across the valley. "The bearer and the bride have triumphed, the relic lives. The tribes endure." The warriors cheered, their voices rising like thunder. But Daniel's thoughts were not on victory. He looked at Liara, still catching her breath, silver eyes glowing faintly in the relic's light. For the first time he felt that maybe he was not alone. Maybe destiny had not cursed him but given him something unexpected. Yet in the shadows beyond the valley, other eyes watched, hidden warlords plotting, enemies who would not let this victory stand unchallenged. The battle was won, but the war for the relic was far from over. The battlefield lay silent at last. Smoke drifted across the valley, the scent of blood and scorched stone heavy in the air. Daniel stood shakily, his body aching, his arm still glowing faintly with the relic's mark. Around him, alien warriors gathered the wounded, their voices hushed, their eyes filled with awe as they looked at him. He had not asked for this fight nor for the bond, yet somehow he had stood against an army and lived. Liara stood beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the dim glow of the fires, her blade resting at her side. Her armor was cracked, her body bruised, but she stood tall, unbroken. For a long moment they simply breathed, the weight of survival pressing down on them. The council stepped forward, the eldest elder leaning heavily on his crystal staff, his voice carried across the ruined valley. "The prophecy has spoken true. The relic has chosen a bearer unlike any before, and in him we have found not just strength, but unity." The crowd of warriors bowed their heads, murmurs of agreement spreading. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, unused to such reverence. "I'm not a hero, I just didn't want to see anyone else die." Liara's gaze lingered on him, unreadable as always, but her voice softer now. "Perhaps that is why the relic chose you, human, not for power, but for heart?" The relic pulsed faintly at her words. As if agreeing, Daniel gave a weak laugh. Heart doesn't win wars. Armies do, Liara tilted her head. And yet, your heart carried us further than any blade could. The council declared the tribes united under the new bearer and his bride. Messengers were sent to distant clans, carrying news of the victory and the prophecy fulfilled. Some would accept, some would resist, but for now the valley stood together. Daniel felt the weight of expectation settle heavily on his shoulders. He had not only survived, he had become a symbol, and symbols could not easily walk away. That night, the fires of mourning and celebration burned together. Songs echoed through the valley. Alien voices raised in tones Daniel did not understand but somehow felt deep in his chest. Children peeked at him from behind tents, their wide eyes filled with wonder. Some even touched the glowing marks on his arm. Whispering words he could not translate but felt like prayers. Daniel sat apart, staring at the stars. He missed Earth, missed the silence of the oceans, the smell of rain on concrete, the laughter of people who never carried the weight of destiny. Now he was far from home, bound to a relic and a people who barely trusted him. His chest tightened, doubt whispering at the edges of his mind. Liara approached quietly, her steps light but sure. She lowered herself to sit beside him, her silver eyes softer than he had ever seen. "You carry the look of a man lost," she said. Daniel sighed. "Because I am lost. I never wanted this, I just wanted to explore, not lead tribes into war for a while." She said nothing, only looking at the stars with him. Then she spoke, her voice calm. "Neither did I want this bond. I am a warrior, not a bride. Yet the relic bound us together. And still you did not force me, you gave me choice in that. Perhaps destiny is less cruel than it seems." Daniel turned to her, surprised by the honesty in her tone. "I don't want to trap you, Liara. If there's a way to break this bond, I'll find it." Her lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close. "Perhaps I no longer wish to break it," she whispered. Daniel's chest warmed at her words, not from the relic, but from something more human. For the first time, he felt not just duty between them, but the beginning of trust, maybe even something deeper. The relic pulsed, not burning, not demanding, but steady and calm. Daniel realized it no longer felt like a chain, but a bridge, linking two souls who had chosen to stand side by side. He looked at Liara and nodded. "Then maybe we can build something new. Not just war, not just prophecy, but a future." Dawn broke over the valley, the first rays of light spilling across the battlefield. The wounded were tended, the dead honored. The survivors stood ready for the challenges ahead. Daniel rose, Liara at his side, the relic glowing faintly as if greeting the sun. The tribes knelt as one, not out of fear, but out of hope. For the first time, Daniel did not feel like an outsider. He felt like part of something larger, something worth protecting. The human who had stumbled into ruins as a stranger now stood as a bearer, a leader, and perhaps even more, the relic had chosen him. But his choices had shaped what that meant. Liara placed a hand on his arm, the bond steady between them. "Come, bearer," she said, her voice firm but warm. "Our people wait." Daniel nodded, exhaling slowly. The war was not over, but a new dawn had begun, and for the first time, he was ready to walk into it, not alone, but united.